Hey everybody, it's Christopher. Welcome to Karen Isn't Always Right. Today's episode will be the very first one that actually has a guest, so you're welcome for not having to listen to me ramble on for an hour about random shit. My first guest today is going to be Riley Fry, and yes, we are related. It's my younger son. This episode was recorded on New Year's Eve, and the significance, which I believe I do talk about in this episode, is the fact that it is the 10-year anniversary of the Joe Rogan Experience, and I thought it was pretty cool because that was the inspiration for me doing my own podcast. So Riley works in customer service. He's worked at several different restaurants, and I thought it was going to be interesting to get the perspective of a teenager having to deal with some of the difficult customer service things that a lot of us have to deal with. So I thought it was pretty cool. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and yeah, take a listen. Hello, folks. Welcome to the podcast. I have a special guest with me. I've got my son Riley here today. Riley, say hi to everyone.
Hi, how's it going?
They're all saying good.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Okay, so Riley and I have talked about this a lot, and he works in customer service at a pizza joint. Why don't you tell us about, if you feel comfortable telling us where you work?
Yeah, that's fine. So I work at a local pizza shop back where my mom lives, called Arte Pizzeria, and I am a phone person, so I take phone calls and sort of cut pizzas, prepare things for pizza makers, and I'm sort of the backbone of the whole place.
So you have to talk to customers on the phone all the time?
Yeah. It's pretty much nonstop calls coming in. We do delivery, online, slices, we do the whole shebang.
The whole shebang. Do you like it?
Out of the 4 jobs that I've had, yeah, it's really busy all the time, which keeps me like doing stuff, unlike my other jobs where I'd have these long spaces of time where I wasn't really doing anything.
What are your other jobs? Where else have you worked?
So my first job was at a donut place where I was a baker, working nights, and I would sort of bake donuts and glaze them and make pounds of glaze, and then I worked at a sort of a burger fast food place, fast casual, Freddy's. That was fun. I worked with Connor, my brother.
What'd you do there?
I was a cashier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would do drive-through as well, which I wasn't really a fan of.
I heard only the girls work cashier at that restaurant. Is that true?
What?
I thought all the dudes work in the back.
No, they put all the pretty faces up front.
So is that why your brother was in the back?
Yeah, that's why I made the cut.
Yeah, your brother's got a face for podcasting, right?
And then I worked at a bar as a host in sort of the downtown area where my mom lives. And it was probably my least favorite job.
Why is that?
I worked with a lot of angry women. Yeah.
Okay, so like angry customers or angry employees?
Angry employees, drunk customers. I got the whole lot.
Yeah. So to preface the rest of this podcast real quick, as we always try to do a what's the word I'm looking for? A disclaimer. This podcast is my views and opinions only. It does not represent the viewpoints of my employer. I'm sure Riley is going to say the same thing. Right, Riley?
Exactly.
So this isn't the viewpoint of your employer. So if you happen to know who I'm employed for, yeah, not their opinion. So, okay, so let's talk about where you're working now. What's the name of it again?
Arte Pizzeria.
Arte?
Arte.
Arte.
I think it means artisan in Italian.
Oh, bene. All right, cool. So you were mentioning on the ride down this morning. By the way, it's Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas Eve. Today's the 10-year anniversary of Joe Rogan's very first podcast.
Yeah,
so
happy 10-year Joe.
Happy 10-year Joe. I'm sure he's listening and
Yeah.
giving us the big thumbs up right now. So anyway, on the way down, you were talking about how, when we were talking about the podcast, about how you may not have much to talk about, but then all of a sudden last night, you had...
my first experience.
With? A Karen.
Exactly.
That's right. So tell us about Karen.
So typically Mondays aren't usually busy for the phones or in general. It's usually one of our slower nights, but last night I think it's just because it's getting towards Christmas and stuff. It was really busy. I was on phones nonstop. We had online orders. We had takeout online up to like 90 minutes and delivery up to like 120 minutes. So we had it all the way up.
It's going to take 2 hours for me to get a pizza?
Yes.
What the hell's wrong with you people?
We're smack busy, man. So all the pizza makers are extremely busy. Everyone was sort of stressing out. And I was taking these phone calls. Everything was good. And then I got a phone call once we started to slow down from a Karen. We're just going to preface everyone as Karen. So I got a phone call from Karen, and she said that she had put in an online delivery order at like 5:12. I remember closing the check at 5:12, and I even told her, I was like, so she called me, she was like, hey, so I'm just wondering where my pizza is. I ordered it about an hour and 45 minutes ago. I have the online receipt that says it would be here by now. And I was looking at the same receipt that she had. Mm-hmm. It said closed at 5:12, and at the time our delivery was hour and a half to 2 hours.
Does it say that when they order it?
Yes, it does. Okay. And I tell them to preface it as well. So I even told her, I was like, yeah, hey, your pizza's not scheduled to like 6:50 to 7. And she was like, I'm reading right here that it's scheduled for now. And I'm like, well, I'm looking at the same thing you're looking at, and I can assure you it does not say that. She was like, listen, I want my pizza right now, or I want a refund, and I want you marked down, or like, I want to report you. And I was like, listen, I can get an active manager over here to talk to you. And she was like, no, what I want is my pizza, and I want it now. And I was like, so we have like this rack that we put all of our delivery receipts on for the drivers, and I looked at it and I was like, listen, your receipt's not here, so a driver currently has it with them right now and are out trying to deliver this pizza for you. And so she was like, all right, so what happens if I don't get my pizza? I was like, you can call back and I can transfer you to one of my active managers. And she was like, all right, this is on you. And I was like, all right. And I was like, thank you. I hung up and then went about my business as usual. I was like, I know she's going to call back in like 10 minutes. And I looked at my boss and I was like, so I just dealt with my first angry person, and he was like, dude, it happens to everyone. And I was like...
So how long have you been working there?
Almost about a month and a half.
About a month and a half. Yeah. Hold on real quick, because my laptop's going to die.
All right.
One sec, folks.
All right.
We can talk to the people if you want.
Yeah, I've never really dealt with a Karen before. It was a new experience. I mean, working at a bar, I would have thought that would have been a regular occurrence. I mean, I got the occasional semi-angry person. Nothing as extreme as last night. Hey, he's back. All right.
Yeah, that was some crappy timing. All right.
So
you've been there for 4 months, and that was the very first Karen?
I've been there for a month and a half.
Or sorry, a month and a half?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
I feel like it's been longer. Mm-hmm. Okay, so first one in a month and a half. That's not too bad, though, considering you handle all the phone calls, right?
Yes.
Every time you work. That's not shabby. Too shabby. Do you think it's because of your amazing customer service skills, or do you just think it's
I think working at a bakery, a fast casual, and a bar sort of hardened my customer service sort of skill set.
So you got some thicker skin.
Yeah.
So maybe you've gotten these people and you just didn't realize it because you're just desensitized to.
Yeah.
So am I just a sensitive bitch because?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I'm glad we got that straight.
Yeah.
Okay, so she called back, right?
Yeah, so about 10 minutes later, after I took about like 2 more calls, so before she called back again, I got a call from another woman. This one wasn't as angry, but she was like, hey, so my pizza's not, hey, my pizza's not here. And I specifically remember this woman because she called right after the last woman, when they originally ordered their pizzas. And she was like, at the time it was still an hour and a half to 2 hours, and she was like, try and get it out in an hour and a half. And I was like, it's gonna be an hour and a half to 2 hours. And she was like, just do me a favor. And I was like, I will try my best. And
like everybody doesn't want that.
Yeah. So she called back right after the last woman, and she was like, hey, so my pizza's not here. And I was like, I remember you asking me if you could get it out in like an hour and a half. Unfortunately, we're a little backed up.
But it's like, bitch, I told you it's gonna be an hour and a half, 2 hours.
And she was like,
was it over the 2 hours yet?
No, it was still like she had called probably like an hour and a half before, so she still had another 30 minutes. Her ticket was still on the rack, so the driver hadn't taken it yet.
Was it made?
Yeah, it was made. It was sitting in the heating thing, and I was like, "Listen, your pizza's in the heating thing. Your ticket's here, so when one of our drivers gets back, he'll be able to take it out to you." And she was like, "All right, no worries. Sorry for calling." And I was like, it's no biggie.
Don't you wish they could all be like that?
Yeah,
apologetic.
But they aren't, because not a minute after, the woman called again.
The Karen?
The original Karen. Yes.
Okay. The original. The OG Karen.
Yeah. She called back again. She was like, hey, I want a damn refund. And I was like...
Did she say it just like that, or was she yelling?
She was like...
Or
it
like
was a
just
little
on the
snarky. It was a little like defensive almost.
Okay.
Like she wasn't trying to be mean, but
she
like,
was.
She was.
There's an edge.
There's
to
some
the
passive aggressiveness.
Okay.
So she's like, I want my damn receipt back, or my damn refund. And I was like, all right, let me transfer you to my manager. And I looked at my manager, and he had like these just dead eyes. He was like, oh, come on, man. And so he stopped making pizzas and took the phone. And then I sort of just backed up towards like the salad making station. I just looked at him and I was like, I'm sorry, man. And he spent a good probably 15 minutes on the phone with her.
Really?
Yeah, and I heard little bits and pieces of the call. He was like, no worries. So your receipt is out right now. One of my drivers just informed me that he does have your receipt. He does have your pizzas. He will be there soon. And from what I could tell, she felt bad in a way. I remember my boss saying, hey, listen, you're not a horrible person. Don't say that. I was like...
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. So...
She must have gone off on him a little bit.
Probably. Yeah. So...
Did he tell you what she said?
No, he didn't. He just told me everything was fine and that he got it figured out. But as I was sort of doing a full sweep, like sweeping up the entire front, I would sort of hear bits and pieces because, I'm sort of used to trying to pay attention to the phones, trying to hear if any calls are coming through, but of course he was on it, so eventually he just hung up because there was calls coming through and we had to get those through, so he gave her his personal number, I'm pretty sure, and he was calling her separately. Again, I'm not sure. He might have been calling the driver.
So did he take care of her? Did he refund it or give it to her for free?
From what I know is that the pizza got delivered to her and that they discounted it a little bit.
Okay.
Just because,
but not for free.
Yeah, not for free. Just because it wasn't an issue because we had told her previously, hey, it's gonna be an hour and a half. It's 2 hours. We were about probably 2 hours 5 minutes. So, just because there's probably traffic out, late minute Christmas shopping.
So, what do you think the line is between when you make a decision to, because of someone's inconvenience, to give it to them for free or to discount or not even do anything? Like,
it's usually if it's extremely late, if it's not an appropriate looking pizza. So at my place we focus...
Not an appropriate looking pizza?
Yeah, so
it's dirty.
At Arte we try to really focus on the appearance of the pizza. That comes first, so we want it to look as beautiful as possible.
Sure.
And I'm not throwing shade at any other companies, but a lot of pizzas tend to be really ugly.
You calling out the Hut?
No, I'm calling out the the Dom.
Oh, you don't like Domino's? That's right.
I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, we try and focus on the look of our pizza. So if it doesn't look nice, we will do what we call adding credits to their person. So
Okay.
if they come in again, they might have a certain amount of money in credits. So that
Okay, so you have like a database full of customers.
yes.
And, okay.
So like whenever we input a number, it will pop up with the customer's name and previous pizzas that they've ordered and everything.
Oh, okay.
We have like a really amazing system that it's very easy to use. We have all the names listed,
Solid.
and they're mostly regulars. So
I was gonna say, do you get a lot of regulars?
yeah. So
Okay.
almost every night I get a call from someone that I got the night before.
You know what I find about regulars sometimes is sometimes regulars can be the worst. Like
they can be the best. Yeah.
they can. But I remember when your mom used to work for Old Chicago, and they have all these regulars that sit at the bar, and they always sit at the end of the bar, and there's like anywhere between 3 to 5 of them or whatever, and they all just think they're entitled to free shit all the time.
Yeah.
Because they go there all the time. And I have regulars come in. Regulars come into my place.
I wouldn't find like a movie theater to be a place for like.
Yeah, you believe it, man. Like, you see the same people a lot, and some of them are great, like you said, and then some of them earn nicknames
Yeah.
because they're not so great.
Yeah.
So, especially, I used to work in old B Town, Boulder,
Yeah.
and
Love it.
no offense to anybody in Boulder, but that town is a little extra when it comes to the customers. If it's probably, as far as I'm concerned, Boulder is the absolute worst when it comes to working in customer service.
I imagine.
You've heard me talk about it
Yeah.
a lot.
Which
And
is
the
sad because I really liked that theater. That you
Yeah,
worked
I mean, it's a great theater.
in. I mean, I watched that place like open and stuff. And
Well, you've watched several places that I've worked
Yeah.
at open. By the way, we're not mentioning who I work for.
Exactly.
But like some of the regulars down there, I mean, the nicknames they have is just, they're not like disparaging nicknames. They certainly call attention to whatever that person happens to be about. But like even at my theater now, we have the white popcorn lady. And it's not because she's white. It's because she likes her popcorn white. You know how like popcorn that you get in a movie theater is seasoned and it's kind of yellow or whatever?
Yeah.
That's because of the seasoning salt we put on it. Well, this lady demands that her popcorn be cooked without oil, be cooked without seasoning.
but that's like a whole extra process you have to do.
It
'Cause
is a
usually
whole
you
extra
cook
process.
batches like.
Yeah, like we don't cook our popcorn to order. Like you don't come up and say, "Hey, I want a large popcorn." We make that batch special for it.
Yeah.
Now, look, we will do things for our customers, if it's if we're able to, and it's an option that we have. And so in this lady's situation, it's like, look, if there's nobody else around, we'll make you a special batch. It's not a big deal. The problem with this lady, though, and she is a bit of a Karen, is that every time she came in, she would cut to the front of the line and then get demanding about it, especially even if it's busy. And so there was one time in particular where she cut to the front of the line, ordered the popcorn, and then the manager was basically like, "Look, I can't do that right now. Like, we're busy." And she like went off on him. She went off on the employee and like made this big huge scene, and then wrote corporate about it. And she's
As
a
they
regular,
do.
huh?
As they do.
As they do, yes. She made a really big deal about it, and then I had to tell her. I had to like come to this. It's hard to find that moment where it's okay to kind of come down on a customer a little bit.
Yeah.
But I had to tell this lady, it's like, look, you can't be cutting in line. That's not fair. And we'll make that popcorn the way you want it, provided we're in a position to make it that way. That's like if somebody comes to you wanting you to make your dough a special way.
Yeah, so here's an example. So it's like, say I get a phone call. So we're not supposed to deliver pizza rolls or pizza by the slice over the phone. That's a come in, grab it, like especially.
So you can't just deliver them by themselves.
Yeah, so we have to either deliver
This would be like a
whole
minimum
pie
order or something.
and stuff. So for delivery, it has to be a minimum order of $20.
Okay.
If we want to get it out to them, but a lot of people are like, I pick up the phone, I say hi, welcome to what can I get for you today, or usually I ask them, hey, can I get a phone number so that we can look up their name and get it situated.
Right.
Most of the time, right after I say hi, thank you for calling,
Mm-hmm.
they completely skip all of that and they're like, all right, so can I get a blah blah blah, etc. I'm like, whoa, okay, hold on, slow down. So what I need first is like your phone number, and they're like, like, all right,
Because you want to look them up.
yeah,
Right.
But usually they're like, I just want to get this pizza, so it's like they just start right ahead and blurt out like 50 things at me, and I'm like, all right, hold on, I see.
And when you tell them to start over, they obviously get irritated with you.
So when I'm like, hey, can I get your phone number? I most of the time hear like a sigh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's the end of the world.
And probably about like 80% of people who are calling, it's like older dudes.
Do you guys have online ordering?
Yeah, we have online ordering.
And so I'm guessing, a lot of the people that call in are old and don't use the internet, right? Yeah.
So we have a lot of older dudes that call in. It's usually that disgruntled, heavy sigh or groan. And it's like, sorry, man.
Old people could suck sometimes, man.
Yeah. I'm like, sorry, man. And so I, ask for the phone number, I get it down, and then I ask them, hey, what can I get for you tonight? They usually tell me. And then by the end of it, they're just totally done. And they're like, all right, thanks, hang up.
Yeah.
And then the most annoying thing is our system. When someone hangs up before you put the phone back down, there's a chance that when you put the phone back down, you hang up on the next person.
It automatically answers the next person?
Yeah.
That's
so
annoying.
Someone hangs up right before I put the phone down, because I try to be the first one to hang up so that doesn't happen. So then I put the phone down, and it hangs up on the next person, and they have to call back. And
what kind of phone are you using, man?
I don't know, man.
Is it a regular phone or a cordless?
It's a regular phone. Yeah, but it's odd. But yeah, then that makes the next person angry.
Sure, yeah, it starts to snowball.
So it becomes this cycle of things. Meanwhile, I have to deal with getting online orders figured out, and then.
So you handle the phone calls and the online stuff?
Yeah, I handle online phone calls, and then what we call front jolly, which means that when the pizza when the person who is scheduled to cut pizzas and restock pizza supplies is off doing something else, that means I have to take care of both front jolly and phone calls. So I have to sort of double.
How do you balance your time between the two? Which takes priority?
Phone calls, definitely.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of the centerpiece of everything.
Well, that and the phone's not either. If the phone stops ringing, then you're not taking an order.
Yeah, and so then I go do front jolly stuff, but then when I'm like halfway through cutting a pizza, the phone will ring, and so I have to hurry up and cut this pizza, and then get to the phone. But then I realize, I forgot to put a pizza table on that pizza, and close the box and hand it to the pizza maker.
So you need to be able to multitask.
Yeah.
And how good are you at multitasking?
I'm decent, I think.
Scale of 1 to 10. This
probably like a 7.
That's not bad.
You know.
But you were telling me a story recently, weren't you? On the jolly or whatever. Is that the correct term? On the jolly.
On the jolly.
And didn't you mess? Oh, you cut it wrong, right?
I did. So our small pizzas get 6 slices. So you have to cut it. Usually you go half, the other half, and then you cut through those halves, and you end up with 8 slices, right? With a small pizza and a gluten-free pizza, you have to do half, and then this weird diagonal peace symbol sort of shebang, so that you can then cut the other half.
Is this because you sucked at fractions in school?
Yes.
Yeah. I figured.
Thanks.
Your math skills.
But it's also because we have to cut it in the box. Most of the time, the pizzas get cooked too big.
Yeah.
So we have to try and squeeze it into the box and cut it in the box.
Those gluten-free people, though, I mean, I tell you.
Dude, those pizzas are like leather.
Yeah, well, to each their own, I suppose.
Yeah.
What was I going to ask you? It was something about...
But yes, I did cut the pizza wrong.
Good job. So, you don't send that out, right? Do you remake that?
Most of the time, if it's in-house, we tell the person, we're like, hey, so we accidentally had this pizza cut wrong. We have a new employee back there. He's trying.
It's me.
And then I peek around the corner. I'm like,
hey,
what's up? Sorry. And then
my bad.
They're like, don't worry about it. It's cool.
Do people really care if their pizza? Do you even notice? I don't know if I.
A lot of the time, because it's regulars usually, they're like, my small pizza is cut into 8ths. I'm like, no.
How many pieces would a small usually have?
6.
6. Yeah, so they're a little smaller.
Yeah.
I like smaller pieces anyway.
And some people get double cut, so it's real small. But yeah, just some of the tiniest things seem to just send people beyond their reaching.
Yeah. Well, that's good that as long as you've been working. So you're 18 on
January 4th.
I knew the date. I was trying to think of the day.
Oh, sure.
So in about a week or so.
Yeah.
and week and a half, and you've been working since you were 15, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in 3 years, that's not bad to be able to sit here on a podcast and only have really one super negative thing.
Yeah.
And even in the scheme of things, honestly, if I'm being real, that wasn't terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's been other smaller like Karen moments, but
Probably.
I sort of just brushed them off my shoulder and
Push them out of your mind.
sent them to the lost treasures of time.
Well, I'm gonna need you to remember these going forward so that we have something to talk about.
All
But let me look at something real quick. Have you ever been a Karen?
No.
You ever had one of those moments?
You should know, because usually when we go out to like our Tuesday dinners and stuff, if I like get something back that's not the way I expected, or I ordered the wrong thing, you're like, dude, just call me back and
you bitch out, man.
fix it. I'm like, no, dude, I'll just deal with it. And it's like
But I'm not saying you gotta freak out about it.
Yeah,
Say,
but
hey,
like
look.
even then, like usually when I have something really bad happen at a place, like they mess something up extremely, and most of the time I'm with like my friends and stuff, we'll just sort of talk shit.
What do you think? Why do you think the Karens are the way they are? Why do you think they get all Karen-y?
It usually happens in an older demographic, and I'm not
Okay.
saying it always does, because the Karen that I had my experience with sounded like she was probably in her 30s. But usually it happens in older.
What's older to you?
Like probably like 50.
So older than me. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not in the older demographic.
I thought you were like 60 though.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so typically in the older demographic.
Yeah, and I think it's just because they're used to a certain way of things that maybe doesn't really happen with the younger demographic. Like the younger demographic isn't paying as much detail to what they would expect them to.
Okay.
So then they get defensive and they're like, you should do it this way.
Unless there's gluten in their shit, and then they freak out.
Yeah.
I'm serious, man. I had it was this time last year. It might have even been Christmas Day. This lady comes up to me in the lobby and starts asking me like if we have gluten in our menu. What menu items have gluten? And I kind of like had a brain fart, and I was sitting there thinking, I don't think. Like our burgers, because there's bread, anything with bread, obviously, burgers, pretzels, stuff like that. I don't know how gluten familiar you are. But there was she was asking about the wings. And I think I gave her one. She like lost her mind on me, man. Totally flipped shit. And this girl was like 22. So some people can get funky about it.
Yeah, usually I see Karen's either being an older woman or a younger woman, like almost like fresh out of her teens sort of deal happening.
So they might be a little older, but what do you think is contributing to why they lose their mind the way they do? I mean, you're familiar with the whole like I want to talk to a manager haircut looking. That's a look, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty common.
I mean, I feel like there's several factors, like it being they're older, they're used to something, or like they want to feel superior to the working people. It's like,
yeah, I've gotten that.
Yeah, they want to make other people feel like inferior and like.
Do you think they purposely do it, or do you think they're just losing it?
I think sometimes you see
realize.
that people are purposely doing it. I definitely think the Karen I dealt with, sort of half and half on that. She was like, this is a legitimate problem, I want to figure it out. And she was like, I just want to stir up some chaos a little bit. And like, I could tell by like the way she was just interacting with me.
Yeah.
I was like, I have a very soft-spoken voice when I'm on the phone. Like I put on what Adian calls my happy-go-lucky voice.
Yeah, I call it the customer voice.
Yeah. So it's a very different sounding voice, and it's like bubbly and.
Can you give us an example?
Hi, thank you for calling.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for calling this place. What can I get for you tonight?
I've got a manager at the theater who, well, he's not there anymore, but man, this guy is like constantly sort of a Debbie Downer. Like every time I'd see him, hey man, what's going on?
And then the second
but then like phone rings, it's like, hey, thank you for calling, blah blah blah. And I'd be in my office and I'd hear that and I just roll my eyes because it's so fake.
Yeah, my boss even commented on it. He was like, dude, you're so shy and reserved when you're not on the phones, and the second you get on the phones, you just explode. And I'm like,
you're shy and reserved at work?
Yeah, I don't talk very much.
You and your sister, man, you guys are totally different people here.
I mean, I'm usually like not that way when I'm like in public or hanging out with new people, but then like when I'm at work, I'm just like, I want to get this shit done. So I'm just gonna focus on that and not really talk to anyone.
That's fair.
Yeah.
The other thing I think plays into the Karen mentality sometimes is socioeconomics, like money. Like a lot of my experience has been that people who have more money tend to be, for lack of a better way of putting it, bigger assholes. Have you seen that before?
Well, I mean, working at like the places that I've worked, I don't usually see like a lot of wealthier people like come in like.
That's probably because of where
you. I mean, except for Freddy's, probably I've seen like people in suits come in and like sort of.
Well, and that's further east where it's kind of a nicer, more
meanwhile,
upscale
it's like downtown areas.
Yeah.
A little less, and I don't see a whole lot of those people, but like the older people who are well off, you know, like they're doing okay. Yeah. Probably tend to do that a little more.
I think the lady that you dealt with yesterday, it sounds like she probably realized that she was being
Yeah, I think after a little bit of talking with my boss, she was like, "Man, I really should have."
An asshole.
Yeah. Because I remember him telling her, "Hey," he was like, "Yeah, we're really backed up tonight. It's unusual for a Monday, and I know the holiday times are stressful and stuff." And I think he sort of appealed to her emotional side a little bit, which
Some people don't buy into that though. Some people don't give a shit. They're like, well, whatever. You should have planned for it. And that leads me to the question I had is like, did your managers not realize that hey, school's out, tomorrow's a holiday, it's probably going to be pretty busy this week. Like they've been around for a while, right? This restaurant's been around.
A mistake that we made last night is when we are updating our online times. It's called throttling the online times, and so. I got to work and I was working for about an hour, and I hadn't asked about the times online yet. And so before I got there, it wasn't very busy. So we had times at probably 40 minutes and then 60. And so when we were getting really busy, people looked at the online orders and said, "Oh, it's not gonna be that long." And so my boss was like, "Hey, dude, what are the online times at?" And at this time we were having delivery, regular deliveries was hour and a half to 2 hours, and I was like, I pulled it up and I was like, oh shit, it's 40 minutes and 60, and he was like, okay, we're gonna change that. And then
and that's the problem I think in customer service a lot is that you need to under promise and over deliver. You know what I mean? So you were a host at the bar, right?
Yes.
And so did you guys ever go on a wait like on the weekends?
Very rarely.
Okay, that's because they're slow shit.
Twice.
But let's say you go to Chili's or whatever on a Saturday, a lot of times you're going to go on a wait because it just gets stupid busy. Yeah. But if you, as a host, tell the customer, okay, it's going to be 10 minutes, and then it ends up taking 20, people are going to get pissed, right? Mm-hmm. But let's say you tell them it's going to take 20, but you seat them in 10. They're not pissed because then they're pleasantly surprised. They're like, oh man, I thought it was gonna be 20 minutes. Here we are sitting down at 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Yeah. So same thing with the pizza. They're sitting there thinking, oh, I'm gonna get my pizza in 40 minutes. It took them fucking 2 hours. As opposed to tell them 2 hours, it takes an hour and a half, and they're all.
And a lot of the time when I tell them, so before every call, when the phone starts ringing, I look at the pizza makers. I'm like, hey, what are the times? So they give me the times, and I tell the person. So usually they say, oh yeah, delivery's gonna be an hour 10 to an hour 50, or it's an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. And so I'll pick up the phone. I'll be like, hey, we would take out delivery. They say delivery. I'm like, all right, that's gonna be about an hour 10 to an hour and a half. They almost always pay attention to that first number.
Yep.
When it's always that second number.
They hear what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so one time, it was a couple days ago. I was like, delivery times were hour to 2 hours instead of hour and a half to 2 hours. So I picked up the phone and I was like, it was a delivery. I told the person, I was like, hey, it's going to be an hour to 2 hours. And they say it back to me. They're like, an hour? All right. And I'm like,
but they hear what they want to hear.
I was like, I just said hour to 2 hours.
But that's similar to when you hear that something cost $4.99.
Yeah.
How much do you think that's in your brain? What is your brain tell you?
$4.99, but it's actually
but you're geared more towards $4 than you are $5, even though it's a penny away from $5. People are just going to hear it. So why don't you just tell them it's going to be up to 2 hours?
Because
why give them that and that's a huge window, man.
Yeah, it's usually because anything could really happen. We could get another pizza maker on deck and get these pizzas going.
But then they get it early.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So why not just give them the
because that's why we give them the sort of fractions, because it's like
But clearly it's causing an issue, right?
not as much as it seems like it would.
But it's causing some.
Yeah.
So just alleviate it causing any issue and just give them, hey, it could take all the way up to 2 hours. I mean, I realize you don't run the joint.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
that's a good point. I'm not really skilled in it.
You should run that by your manager, man.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Be a guy who's
I
solving
want to preface
problems.
by saying that, it may sound like my place has like a lot of problems.
No, I don't think that at all.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying whoever listens.
The audience, the two people that are going to listen to this?
That it's not that way at all, because I think we're a wonderful little place. And
yeah, no, I'm sure it's great. I was just saying,
yeah,
like it could mitigate some issues. So do you guys have training in place to deal with customer complaints? Like as an employee, do your managers train you on how to deal with that kind of stuff?
I think at first they sort of be like, if this happens, do this, and then we'll take care of it from there. But usually when they can tell when we're dealing with a difficult customer, they often are like, let's sort of throw them into the fire a bit, get them used to how it's going to be, because we're not always going to be here to help them out. They've got to adult a little bit in this.
But do they train you on how to like do that? Because
yeah.
Look, I mean, you could throw anybody into that shit.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
And sink or swim.
When we get there, they usually, what they did for me is they told me like usual things that would happen, like complaints and stuff, and they would be like, "This is how you take care of this." Okay. In front of the phones, we have like these pages on the wall of everything that gets covered throughout the phone call, like the order of what you have to say, like discounts that we have that we can tell the people about, or problems and what we would do for each of those problems.
Okay, so it's kind of a step by step.
So we have, and the menu is up there too. So we have everything at our disposal right above the phones.
That's kind of cool. So you have all these resources basically like right there. That's good.
So
that'd be great for me because I have the memory of a goldfish. So.
Yeah. So we're standing in place for up to 2 hours, getting constant phone calls. And so we have this little cheat sheet that we can use. So.
That's good. Which if you're there that often, like I'm sure you probably have it memorized by now. Anyway. Yeah. Yeah, so like the way I train people in my theater, so there's two different acronyms. We like to use acronyms. So one acronym I've used in the past is called LEAST. You know what an acronym is, right? Each letter means something. So LEAST is listen, empathize, apologize, solve, and thank. Okay, so like when a guest comes up, with a problem or a concern or whatever, we call them concerns. You need to listen to, like genuinely listen, because you know how like most people, when you're in a conversation, they're basically just waiting for their turn to talk.
Yeah.
You know how the people can be like that. So you need to but you being whomever's taking care of the customer needs to genuinely listen to that customer and what they're upset about. And then a lot of times when I'm listening, as a way of actively listening, I'll repeat back to them what their concern is so that they can understand that I understand what the problem is. And then I'll show empathy. So do you understand, what empathy is? What is empathy?
Why don't you?
Putting you on the spot.
Why don't you?
It's like putting yourself in their shoes. So the difference between sympathy and empathy is empathy. You're like truly understanding
Totally knew that.
Why they're upset. What?
Totally knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you some wisdom here, buddy. And then, so you say things like, I totally understand why you'd be frustrated. Like, that's happened to me before and it's really annoyed me. Things like that. So you're showing them that you really do understand why they would even be unhappy. And then obviously you want to apologize for it. Even if you didn't make the mistake, we always train our people, like, apologize anyway. It doesn't matter. Even if you think they're wrong, it doesn't matter.
Yes, my boss notices a lot that even when I don't, even when there's not a serious issue, because he can tell what the person on the other side is saying because he's worked there for like 10 plus years. He's like, I know what's happening. You don't have to apologize for that. And I'm like, it's just a habit of me apologizing for the tiniest inconveniences.
Yeah.
And usually that brightens the other person up a little more. They're like, don't worry about it.
Well, and it shows some humility, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you're humble, like I train managers a lot like that. Not even just with customer interactions, but with interactions, because I have a very large management team. You hear me talk about my team a lot. Mm-hmm. And even when dealing with each other, it's good to just be humble and you're putting yourself out there, and so people don't perceive that as being aggressive or anything like that, and they're much more likely to let their guard down a little bit and be a little bit more vulnerable. And so, but yeah, I mean, you want to, and plus, look, if someone's taking the time to bring a complaint to you, that's a good thing. You know, you want to have the ability to apologize for whatever inconvenience they may have faced or whatever, and then you thank them. And a lot of people are like, well, why would you thank somebody for yelling at you?
Yeah.
Well, again, they could have kept that complaint to themselves. And if it's a mistake that you guys have been making, or us, whatever, we've been making the same mistake over and over and over again, not really realizing that it's upsetting people. If nobody ever says anything, we're just going to continue to make that mistake forever and continue to piss people off.
It was a sort of weird occurrence because last night when I was dealing with that Karen situation, at the end of the phone call after I told her, hey, if the pizza's not there, feel free to call back. I was like, thank you. She was like, she did that weird thing where she's like, okay. Like, why are you thanking me? You know?
Yeah.
I was like, just hung up. And,
Because? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, you've watched Shark Tank with me a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like Mr. Wonderful, it's like somebody he'll go out and then somebody will be like, well, thank you. And he's like, don't thank me. I just went out. But, you know, the same thing. It's like you thank a guest and like, don't thank me. I just ripped your head off. I'm probably going to continue ripping your head off, and I might even write your corporate office.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to do what you got to do. So, you know, but it like I'll still use that acronym whenever I'm dealing with customers, and I've been doing this for 30 years, and I'll literally like go through that checklist in my head so that I know exactly how I want to respond to the guest. But that's how I train all my people too, and like all of my employees for every company I've worked for. I train to have the ability to take care of whatever complaint ever comes up. So as opposed to like customer's pissed, I want to talk to a manager, the first thing out of my employees' mouths should be, well, how can I help you?
Yeah.
What can I do for you? You know, so that way customers know it's not only a manager that can take care of your issues. Any one of us can. And then that, by virtue of doing that, that shows that everybody that works here cares about taking care of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I mean, this was my first time really dealing with something like that, like at this place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sort of just told her, I was like, listen, your tickets, I like told her what was in front of me, face value. I was like, listen, your ticket's not here. We got this sent at 5:12. So someone's currently out trying to get this pizza to you. And then I was like, if you have any other problems, I can get my manager over here and you can talk to him in more in depth, because that's all I can do for you right now.
Do you ever have customers that you feel like are trying to rip you off?
Oh, yeah, we've had that a lot while I've been there. So there was one night, it was one of my first shifts there. I was on the phone. I think it was my first time on phones. So like the first 2 shifts I was watching people on phones and sort of learning front phone. Like that's my first night on phones. It was probably like one of my last 10 calls of the night. I got this guy, he called, obviously drunk, you know, and he was like, hey, so manager's name told me that I could call here and get free chicken wings. First of all, we don't have chicken wings.
So do you think they hit the wrong place?
No, because he was like, hey, is this hard to, you know? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, your manager told me to call and said that I could get some free chicken wings and maybe a free pizza. And I was like, first of all, we don't. I didn't tell him this.
Did they though?
I didn't tell him this. I was like, we don't have chicken wings. That's what I was thinking in my head. And I was like, this sounds very sketchy. So I got the pizza maker. He's also been there for a while. He's a really cool dude. So I got him on the phone, and I just watched as like anger took over his face, and he just hung up, just slammed the phone. Yeah. And he was like, we were trying to get scammed. And then I've had people call. I had one probably yesterday, where a part of me felt like they were just trying to get something out of it. So I rang a pizza up. I remember it specifically. It was a baby spinach, chicken, and ranch.
That is specific.
Yeah. And so sent that to the pizza makers. They made it. And then she calls back later and she's like, hey, I just picked up a pizza. It was baby spinach, chicken, and ranch. There's no chicken. And I was like, it's on the ticket. We have really experienced pizza makers. But I'm sorry. I can do one of 3 things for you. We can either get that pizza made again, we can refund that pizza, or we can give you some credits. And she was like, I'll take the credits. I was like,
but of course you will.
I was like, a part of me really feels like she's calling and complaining just to get free credits. And so the active manager that night, after like my boss left, came over and she was like, I don't know how much the ticket was, so I'm just gonna put $15 for credits. And I was like,
wow.
I was like, just a part of me really feels like she's calling just to get some free credits, you know.
Yeah. It's tough to determine that though, like
because we could be wrong, you know. Like,
yeah, and in a big company, it's a little easier, I think, to just be like, whatever, we'll just take care of them, because it's not worth arguing with somebody and potentially losing a customer for $15 or whatever. But in a smaller company, I mean, that stuff adds up, you know. And it used to be like, I don't know, 20 years ago, I just never would give a whole lot of thought to it. It's like, look, if somebody had a complaint, I just took care of them. If that means I have to compensate them, then I compensate them. But I got to tell you, nowadays the scam is strong in people, and it seems more and more frequent. I mean, the amount of scam calls that we get that are clearly scam calls, and I'm not even just saying, hey, I had a bad experience there, but these are aggressive, overt scam calls where it's like, hey, I'm the CFO of your company, and there is an issue, and you need to run to Walgreens and buy 20 gift cards with $150 on each gift card, and then shoot me the number. That kind of crap.
I've seen those on like...
Yeah, that's become really common. But even the people who call saying, hey, we had to leave suddenly because somebody in the auditorium, touched my daughter or whatever, and that just doesn't happen, you know, and so we had to leave, and it's like, okay, well, did you go to the box office and get a refund? Well, no, we wanted to leave quickly. Did you talk to a manager? No, we needed to leave, or something, they got hurt, oh, we just had to go. And it's like, well, okay. Or, we get people who are like, well, I talked to a manager and they said they would set like 8 passes aside for me.
Talk to that manager. And
okay, who did you talk to? It was a woman.
It was a woman.
I've got 19 managers, half of which are women. Can you be more specific? She was young. Cool. And so you start going down this like checklist of like trying to narrow it down.
She had hair.
She had hair. Yeah.
Eyes
and
body.
Skin. but it's like, look, if somebody at a company tells me I'm getting some shit for free, I'm asking for the manager's name.
Right.
And that happens and my team is really, really good about communicating, like, when stuff like that happens, and setting that kind of stuff aside. We don't just willy-nilly tell somebody something and then not communicate it to anybody, because it's a pain in the ass when someone calls and says, someone told me this, and then we're racing around. So it just happened the other day, and and sometimes you have to make this decision between how hard do I want to push back on this, because I think you're full of shit, or I'll just give you what you want. And I gotta tell you, like, in my experience of how often I've been yelled at, what do you think I usually err on the side of?
Sort of being peaceful.
Yeah. It's just not worth it sometimes. Like, it's not worth the fight sometimes, unless we've seen this person before and we can identify a pattern. Like, a while back, we had this lady who figured out a loophole with, I think it was Chili's gift cards.
Oh, I remember.
Do you remember this? So, like, she would, if you bought if you put a certain amount of money on a Chili's gift card, then you would get these like discounted tickets sent to you for free for our company, for our theater, and then she would take those, get tickets, and then I forget exactly how she did, but somehow she would manage to get like a pass or a refund or something. I think it was passes or something like that. And then I think what we ended up thinking that she was doing was that she was selling those passes to people she knew or whatever, and so she was just getting free money, and then she'd just keep reloading that gift card,
endless loop of money,
and they just keep getting sent these passes. And we finally kind of figured it out. So I contacted Chili's and talked to the GM there, and he was like, "Oh my god, I know exactly who you're talking about." So we shut that shit down. But it's not always that easy to figure out that stuff's going on.
Right. So. And another problem that we deal with, I'm just sort of trying to incorporate different problems that I have. So another problem that we deal with, and I've only learned about this recently, and I mean as recent as a month and a half can get you at work, that we have, if you look up my place's menu and you sort of look for it, there's probably about dozens of fake menus.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or old menus.
Okay.
So people will not go straight to our website and look at our menu. They'll just look up, this place's menu, pull it up, and then like get on the phone and be like, yeah, so can I get this? It's an old pizza. We don't have any of this stuff. It's like yesterday, I got a call from a guy. He was like, "Hey, can I get a 14-inch medium pizza, white sauce with roasted pine nuts and so on and so on.
That sounds delightful.
Yeah, and I was like, looking everywhere on this system that I had, I was like, we do not have.
So do you not have the ingredients? You just don't have that pizza?
We don't have that pizza or any of those ingredients anymore.
Okay. So it's like you're sitting around with toasted pine
Yeah, and
nuts.
I was like, are you sure you're looking at the right menu? He's like, I am looking at Arte Pizzeria menu, and I was like, we have several old menus that you could be looking at. I'd recommend that you go directly to our website and look at this menu. So I was on this call with this guy for like probably 5 minutes. Usually I get a call out in a minute, 2 minutes. I was on it for like 5 minutes. He was a really cool dude. Like, he wasn't being bitchy or caring or anything like that. And I was like, if I want, we can try and replicate that pizza as close as we can. And so I was like reading him the entire menu, all of our ingredients, and he was like, usually when they ask for your name, it's either a good call or a really bad call. In this case, I think it was a good call, because he was like, dude, what's your name? And I was like, no, it's Riley.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was like, dude, nice to meet you, man. He told me his name, and then he was like, dude, how long have you been working there? I was like, probably about like a month and a half. He's like, you're doing a hell of a job. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks. And he was like, yeah, just be sure to tell people that there's old menus that they could be looking at. And I was like, I'll be sure to do that. And he was like, well, thank you for, helping me get this pizza figured out. And then he was like, but I think I'm just gonna go.
I think that's above and beyond customer service, though. Like, you didn't have to spend that much time on trying to figure it out and offering him, like, we'll figure out a way we can get it as close as possible, whatever. But I think that is the difference between, mediocre and above and beyond is taking the time to do that. I would have asked for your name too. I probably would have told your manager you did a good job. We get people like that all the time too, who they'll buy their tickets through Fandango, but they'll buy them for like the wrong theater or the wrong company or whatever, and then they get mad at us. They show up and like, I'm here to see the 8 o'clock Star Wars. We don't have an 8 o'clock Star Wars. Yeah, you do. No, we don't. Pretty sure we don't. Well, it says right here. Well, bro, you're on a different company's website. You're on Fandango, and you're looking at a different theater. It's like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I can't just. And then their expectation is you need to make it happen anyway. And it's like, I can't just snap my fingers and put a movie in a different auditorium for you. So.
And a lot of the times I'll be expecting a regular phone call of someone ordering a pizza, and then I get, hi, my name's this, and I just had like this pizza delivered, and I just wanted to ask if you could let the driver know that it was amazing service,
I like how you affect the accent. Yeah.
I was like, I want his name, I want everything. I want to express my gratitude for this person. And I was like, okay,
that's sweet.
So sweet. And then a lot of the time, this one lady calls several times, and she always asks for the owner, and I've never met the owner. He's sort of this mysterious dude, mysterious Italian man, and she always asks for him, and we're not allowed to give any information on him, or if someone asks to talk to one of our managers, we're like, we can't do that,
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to express something, email us or leave a message. Like, I can take your information. And so she always calls, probably like once a week.
Same lady.
Same person.
Huh.
And she's like, hi, I need to speak to the owner. And I'm like, can't really do that. I can take your information and stuff. And she was like, oh, okay. It's like, you call every week. I tell you.
Dude, people are funny like that. I ran into a lady when I was down in Texas. I was helping open a new theater, that one in Dallas. And we hadn't opened yet. But people kept driving by because it's a new theater or whatever. This one lady manages to come in, and an employee comes and grabs me, and there's like, some lady is like in the lobby wanting to talk to a manager or something. It's like, good Lord. And I swear to you, when I walked up, she looked just like a Karen. And
like textbook definition.
Oh, textbook, man, with the hair swept over, and she's wearing her sunglasses, holding a Gucci bag or whatever,
like a weird flower blouse,
Yeah, and so she starts talking to me, asking me all these questions and stuff like that, and then she goes something to the effect of like, well, it's just a shame what happened to the owner of your company. Like, she mentioned it by name, and I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, well, that he passed away. And I was like, I assure you he has not passed away. Yes, he has. He hasn't. He's still alive and well. Yeah, and she wanted to sit there and argue with me about it for a while. I was like, look, lady, I guess it could be true, but I've been with this company for a long time. I know him personally. Like, I'm pretty sure he's not dead. We would have heard about this. Yeah. It's a big deal, like, in our company, like, if this man had passed away.
But no, he's dead.
I don't know. Well, okay, you have a lovely day. So, anyway.
He's, like, getting pushed out. He's like, he's dead.
All right. Well, this was a good conversation. I think this is where we can wrap it up.
All right.
Love to have you on again.
Yeah, maybe I'll have a more intense.
More stories. They don't have to be intense stories. We'll just get on and chat about this stuff.
That's where you get the juices from, you know.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's our podcast for the day. Just shy of an hour, and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Although by the time you hear this, it will be well past Christmas. But Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
That's the podcast, folks. Please visit kiarpodcast.com. That's KIAR podcast.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. New episodes are going to be posted weekly on kiarpodcast.com, Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. The views and opinions on this podcast are solely that of the guests and hosts and are not representative of any other organizations or individuals. If you or someone you know are interested in being a guest on Karen Isn't Always Right, please give us a visit at kiarpodcast.com and submit your interest on the Contact Us page, as we'd love to have you. Thanks for joining us on Karen Isn't Always Right, and we'll see you next time.